I'm going to show you how to make a perfect beef tenderloin with a delicious creamy horseradish sauce. Steak is notoriously difficult to make for a crowd, but with this recipe, it's super duper easy. It's going to be even easier with the technology thanks to this temp spike. This makes cooking steak foolproof. It's almost too easy. For the full ingredient list, check the description box below, but enough talking, let's get cooking. So before we trim up our tenderloin, let's do one thing that's gonna take just a little bit more time. We're going to roast this garlic bulb. So I'm just gonna cut into the cloves. I'm gonna put the garlic bulb sideways. I'm gonna cut into it, exposing all of these garlic cloves. Now I'm gonna take this heavy duty piece of aluminum foil. I'm gonna drizzle olive oil right inside. And now I'm gonna fold this up. And this is gonna go inside the oven for about 45 minutes. And I already have the oven preheated. So while this is in there, the tenderloin's cooking and everything's cooking all together. So we got this whole beef tenderloin that we're gonna have to butcher down. So this is a fraction of the price that what we would get the tenderloin if it's already cleaned up. So let me show you how I clean it. The first step is we gotta get it out of the plastic and we gotta drain it of its liquid. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So in my nice clean sink, I'm gonna cut the end off the bag here, and just enough that I can get this liquid out. So once I've gotten most of the red liquid, it's not blood, it's just liquid and myoglobulin that collects from the muscles. I'm gonna take this and just put this on my cutting board with some paper towel. So now I'm gonna take some paper towel and just get the moisture off the top of it. So once this is nice and dry, we can discard the paper towel. So first thing we're gonna do is remove this outer piece of the tenderloin. So this piece right here is the tenderloin, but we gotta free it up. We gotta get this piece and this piece off. So I'm just gonna go in there with my hands and start to go right in between the two pieces with my fingers. You can see most of the work I could just do here with my hands, and I can start to remove this outside piece. So if I just drag my knife tip, and if you got a nice sharp knife, it'll just come right apart. Just follow the connective tissue and that'll tell you where to go. And remember, when you're butchering meat, don't hack at it. Use the sharpness of the knife. So that's that first piece that we're gonna take off. The next piece that we're gonna take off is gonna be this piece right here. And the next piece we got to remove is going to be this silver skin right here. So you can start at either end. What I like to do is take my knife and cut right underneath and away. And then I got this nice little flap to pull. I'm going to take a piece of paper towel to get a nice grip on it. This can get really slippery without the paper towel. And then periodically I'll move up the piece, getting as much of this silver skin as I can in one shot. And I'm trying to leave as much meat as possible. And you don't have to take it off in one piece. You don't get extra bonus points for taking it off in one piece. So if you got to do it a few times to get all of it off, that's fine. But ideally, we're not hacking at this meat a lot. Remember, the silver skin is not fat, so it's not gonna render. It's super chewy, so make sure that you're taking off all the pieces that you see. So now we're gonna clip off the end before I continue to trim this up of fat. I'm probably gonna wanna cut it someplace towards the end right here. So we have this larger piece right in the middle, and then probably about right there is where I'm gonna end it. And this piece on this end, this actually looks thick enough that I'm gonna keep this. So when this tenderloin cooks, the middle's gonna cook to a medium rare, or at least that's where I'm gonna cook it. And then the outside portions that are a little thinner than this thicker portion, they're gonna be a little bit more overcooked. So this is a great piece of meat to cook for a crowd of people, because most of the people are gonna want medium rare, but then there's gonna be those people that are gonna want medium and well, and those are gonna come from those end pieces. So that's why I'm gonna keep these skinnier pieces and keep the tenderloin a little longer. So I'm gonna take these tenderloin trimmings and save them. I can do kebabs with them. I can grind them down, make hamburgers. This is a really good meat that you don't wanna throw out, and it's a bonus for buying the whole tenderloin and putting in this work. So now back to our tenderloin, we're gonna take off any of these fat chunks that we see. So there's not much on here, but any of this connective tissue or fat that I'm gonna find on the outside here, I'm gonna trim up to make this as pretty as I can. And any of these little pieces that are maybe hanging off because they're just not gonna look good once they get all cooked up. You can see I'm not even using the knife and I'm just pulling away any of this connective tissue and fat. It's just coming off with zero effort. And look at that. And then when you find places that need to get trimmed up, and now let's season this. So we're gonna start off with just some olive oil right over the top. Tenderloin is really lean, so it's gonna need some fat on the outside to sear up and also to act as a binder for the spices that we're gonna put on. We're gonna start off with some of my base seasoning. This is a blend of garlic powder, onion powder, salt, and pepper. Now we're gonna put on some smoked paprika. This is gonna add a beautiful smoky flavor because we're not cooking this on the grill, we're cooking it inside. Now we're gonna put on some ancho chili powder. You can use regular chili powder, but I like the more complex and milder flavor of the ancho chili powder as opposed to a regular chili powder. And now a secret ingredient, so we're gonna put a little espresso coffee on top. So this is a finely ground espresso coffee. This is a really nice earthy thing to put on the outside of steak, and when it sears up, it tastes unbelievably deep, earthy, really umami. We don't need much, just a little bit on the outside. You see this a lot in like these coffee espresso steak rubs, and I think it works really nice for this tenderloin. So now a little bit of the olive oil on top to help loosen up some of these spices. And now I'm just gonna get in there with my hands and give it this nice massage, picking up everything from the bottom and just rolling it all around. And I'm gonna do this until all these spices and the oil are all well incorporated and mixed. Before we sear this and throw this in the oven, let's let this sit out for a while. It's gonna come up to room temperature, and it also gives some time for the flavors to come out of the spices we just put on it. Let's make our garlic butter and our horseradish sauce, and then we'll get this on the stove. So we're just gonna take this stick of butter and I'm gonna put it inside this small pot. Now I'm gonna take some of these garlic cloves and I'm gonna crush them, and they're gonna go right inside the pot with the butter. And now inside this pot, we're gonna add a little olive oil. The olive oil is gonna help the butter from burning. And then we're also gonna season this with a little pepper and some salt. And now I'm just gonna put this on the stove on a low flame. The butter is gonna melt. It's gonna start to incorporate the flavors of the garlic, and we're gonna use this a little later in the recipe to baste this tenderloin. We're gonna start off with a few cups of some Greek yogurt. And you can use sour cream for this too, but I just prefer the Greek yogurt as the base. Or you could do a mixture of Greek yogurt and sour cream. That also works too. Now we're gonna put in a little Dijon mustard, some of this grated horseradish. And how much horseradish you're gonna put in is up to you. I like my sinuses to be on fire after taking a bite of this. Maybe you want it a little bit more mild, so put a little less. So now we're gonna put in some chives. So let me show you a little secret on how I like to cut my chives so we can get some nice, even, very precise chives. So we're gonna take this paper towel and we're gonna take some of the chives and let them stick out as evenly as possible. And then we're just gonna roll this up. And this is gonna allow us to hold the chives nice and evenly. So I'll start all the way at the end and I'll just clip off all these nasty ragged ones. And now I'm starting with a nice, clean, even edge. As I get over to the end, I can just unroll the paper towel, move them over a little bit, and then re-roll. We're gonna take most of them and we're gonna put them right inside of our sauce. But we're gonna save some for garnish at the end. So now let's finish this sauce with just a little olive oil, a little salt, some fresh ground black pepper, and a little splash of this vinegar. This is a white vinegar that I infused with chive blossoms. This is a really awesome finishing vinegar for flavors and sauces and stuff like that. Once springtime comes around, I'm gonna make another video once we get the chive blossoms back. Just put a little splash in there. The smell of this stuff is unbelievable. And now we'll give this a mix till everything's well incorporated. And again, this is probably way more sauce than we're gonna use for serving this tenderloin, but this stuff is so multi-purpose and go on sandwiches, in a wrap, you can just dip chicken in it, so good. This is gonna go into the fridge, but everything's all ready, so now we can sear our tenderloin on the stove. So I'm gonna drizzle on some olive oil on top of this. Then let's put that tenderloin right in there. And now we're gonna try to sear this on the outside to get some really nice color before this is gonna go in the oven. If I gotta move it around a few times, that's fine. It doesn't have to be one side. Tenderloin's a little bit better if you roll it slowly in a slightly lower heat, then sear it really, really hot on a single side. So as this starts to get color, I'm gonna just keep turning it until we get nice color on all sides. And we're gonna hold off on that herb butter, but I may wanna drizzle a little olive oil right over the top just to keep the outside of this moist. And remember, flavor comes from the color on the outside of this meat, so I'm gonna try to get as much of the outside of this seared up as we can. So once I think I've got enough color on here, I'm gonna take this off and put this on this baking tray that I've lined with aluminum foil, and I got a raised grate on there to keep it up. And we're actually gonna turn this side up. I think that's gonna be our presentation side. We get a little split on the bottom, but that's okay. So now this recipe becomes so much easier once you got one of these cordless temp spikes. This is such an amazing product, and I love how the technology in these things has advanced. So now they're cordless and they give you a lot of information that I'm gonna show you a little later. So now we're gonna remove the temp spike from its case. So now I'm gonna insert the temp spike all the way up to this line right here, and I'm gonna try to aim for dead center, like on the thickest part. So I think if I line this line up and this point. So now I'm gonna insert this spike right into the center, all the way up to that line. And so now the tip of that's probably dead center right on there. And now this is gonna go inside the oven until we get an internal temperature of this thickest part at about 130. This temp spike makes cooking this tenderloin so easy because it tells me the exact temperature that it's at right now. So right now we're at 90 degrees. I set it for a target temperature of 130 degrees. And it also gives me a rough estimate based upon what the ambient temperature is, where we're at, and what's our target. So this is telling me it's taken about 22 minutes right now. It'll start bouncing around, but as it gets closer, it becomes more accurate. So I know how much time I have to go do other stuff before I got to pull this out of the oven. Once the internal temperature hits around 100 degrees, I'm going to take it out and I'm going to baste it with that herb butter. And I'm going to do that one more time before it's finished. You know, look how beautiful this thing looks already. And this is where we take our herb brush and our herb butter with our garlic or our garlic butter. And we're gonna take this herb brush, we're gonna dip it right inside the garlic butter, a little bit of that olive oil, and then we're gonna baste this on the outside. This is gonna add that really nice, rich butter and garlic flavor and incorporate that with the herb flavor without having to add any of the herbs. So now this is gonna go back in the oven. I'm gonna do that one more time at 115. So our roasted garlic is probably really well roasted by now. It's been in there for about 45 minutes. And this looks perfect. Look at that beautiful color, and all those cloves are perfectly roasted and soft. So we're gonna set this aside, and we're gonna use this to garnish a little bit later. So we're just gonna take this and fold this up and set it aside. Once this thing hits the internal temperature north of 115, I'm gonna baste it with the garlic butter and the herb brush one more time. So then one more time, we're gonna give it love with this herb brush and this garlic butter. We're actually gonna do this one more time right before we let it rest, but letting it cook with on there keeps the outside super moist, and it just adds unbelievable flavor. Because the thing is with cooking with a big piece of meat like this is you can't get the flavor on the inside. So you gotta flavor the heck out of the outside, so this thing is absolutely delicious. And even though the people that are gonna want the well done pieces on the end, we're gonna hook them up and make sure that's nice and covered with this garlic herb butter. Now this is gonna go in the oven until we hit that internal temperature of 130. So now this has hit our internal temperature of 130. Let's get this out of the oven and baste it one final time. So now one final time with the garlic butter and the herb brush, we're gonna give this a little bit of love and make sure we're getting it in every nook and cranny that we can. Let's go ahead and remove the temp spike. And again, this makes cooking so easy, but before I rinse it off and give it a wash, I'm gonna let it cool down at room temperature. But this is an unbelievable product. Thank you so much, Temp Spike. So before we slice this and plate this, let's let this sit for about 10 minutes and let it rest. So when we slice into it, the juices don't come spilling out. Now this has had a chance to rest, let's slice it up. So let's slice right into the middle and let's see what this looks like. So I'm gonna cut on a little bit of an angle because that's how I'm gonna cut the rest of the slices. Now you can see we got this perfect medium rare. This is unbelievable, and this would not have been possible without the temp spike. It just gives you a really good accuracy and you don't have to guess and pull it out a million times. So now let's slice up the rest of this. So I'm gonna go on an angle and I'm cutting pieces that are about probably like a little over a ½ inch thick. And you really gotta let this rest, otherwise all the juices are gonna come out. Before we plate this, let me show you the different temperatures that we got here. So if I take a look at this nice centerpiece, we got a beautiful medium rare on there. So it's nice, warm pink center. But if we take a look at some of these end pieces, you can see that these end pieces are cooked far more, so that when people come and some people want some well done pieces and some people are gonna want some medium rare, you got a little bit of everything here. So now let's take these pieces and we're gonna fan them out on this serving platter so everyone can see the internal temperatures. Now we're gonna take back out our roasted garlic, put that on there. And then we're gonna dress up the plate with a few sprigs of some rosemary. This looks absolutely unbelievable, and we totally hit those internal temperatures that we wanted to. When this gets dropped on the table, everybody's gonna get excited for steak. I love my steak medium rare, so let's get some pieces on here, and let's not forget about that delicious creamy horseradish sauce. So now let's take some of this horseradish sauce and spoon it right over the top. Chopped chives. I don't know about you, but I am super excited to try this. Let's dive in and let's see how we did. I mean, we don't even have to cut inside to see how we did. We already know we hit that medium rare. The sauce looks great. Let's get some of this garlic on this first bite. So let me squeeze out a little bit of this. You could just take my knife and remove one of these cloves. I love garlic. I'm a total garlic nut. This is gonna totally complete the bite. We'll take the garlic, we'll put that aside. We'll get this, some of the sauce, a little bit of that garlic. This is gonna be a wonderful bite of steak. Absolutely mouth-watering delicious. The crust on the outside of the steak is so flavorful. So good. Let's get another one of those garlic cloves. I should have made at least 5 of these garlic cloves because I'm going to take a piece with every single bite. This is absolutely unbelievable. I'm even going to put a little pinch of salt on top of here to make these flavors pop. You can also sprinkle it with salt right after you cut it, but maybe some of your guests are watching their sodium intake, so you leave it up to them. Put a little salt right before, it'll do it really good. This is so good. The tanginess of the horseradish sauce plus the earthiness of the beef makes this so good. I know there's not going to be any leftovers after I drop this on the table, but let's say there is. This horseradish sauce and this steak would make an unbelievable steak sandwich. Let me finish the rest of this steak. You can check out my cowboy ribeye with a garlic herb butter. That's a really nice recipe also to make a big steak for a crowd. Thanks, and I'll see you there.